Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Get ready. We are about to completely shatter what you think you know about political power. We're looking at a groundbreaking study mapping the hidden dynamics of African autocracies. Forget civics class. Those rules, they absolutely do not apply here.
So, where does real political power actually hide in a dictatorship? You probably think it sits in elections, right? Or maybe inside a giant parliament building? Well, you're entirely wrong. We usually assume power is granted by the voters, but in post-colonial Africa, that whole idea is just a deliberate illusion. The truth is way darker, and honestly, a lot more fascinating. In a Western democracy, power's out in the open. You count the votes, you see who holds the seats, easy. But in an African autocracy, those metrics are totally useless. Real power is all about hidden elite coalitions. The actual mechanics of survival are kept strictly behind closed doors. You're basically watching a puppet show. The real action is happening backstage.
Which brings us to Section 1, the power smokescreen.
Dictatorships are deliberately hidden. Strongmen intentionally shroud their inner workings in total mystery. They absolutely do not want you to know who's really pulling the strings. It creates this massive blind spot for anyone trying to study them. I mean, you can't track what you can't see. So how do we pierce through this smokescreen? We need cold, hard data. Just look at the Parliamentary Powers Index. It reveals a massive gap. Western democracies score a 0.735, but the 15 African nations in this study, they score just 0.38. Their legislatures are incredibly weak. They are literally just rubber stamps. They don't write laws, they just eagerly nod along with the boss. Measuring parliaments here tells us absolutely nothing about who holds power.
Moving right along to Section 2, the real power code.
Here is the massive secret, the executive cabinet. This is the absolute core of the entire national political system. See, dictators literally cannot rule alone. It's physically impossible. They have to use the highest ministerial seats to distribute wealth. They use these massive positions to keep their friends rich and their enemies incredibly close. The cabinet is where the true power sharing actually happens.
Let's hit Section 3, spoils and survival. Cabinet seats are not just window dressing. They are the keys to the kingdom. Ministers are the ultimate political gatekeepers. They literally control massive state-owned enterprises. Get this, they're 10 times more expensive to buy off than the next highest level of government. 10 times. Handing someone a ministry is basically handing them a license to control vast national resources.
So, why on earth would a greedy dictator share all this wealth? Simple. To prevent a coup. It's pure survival strategy. Sharing power boosts national legitimacy. It subdues regional conflicts, and it mobilizes grassroots support. Leaders like Uganda's Museveni allocate these top seats to rival ethnic groups, and it's not out of kindness. It's a token of goodwill to prevent sudden, violent rebellions. Exclude a massive tribe, and you are basically inviting a revolution. This brilliantly illustrates the dictator's extreme paranoia. Zaire's Mobutu Sese Seko created an atmosphere of perpetual musical chairs. He was constantly reshuffling his ministers. Why? Because if a minister stays in power too long, they build their own army of loyal followers. They get too much power. So, the dictator just constantly fires and moves them around. Keep them dizzy. Keep them weak. Keep them dependent. Now you might be wondering, why not just track political parties? Well, because in many of these countries, there's only one party. Tracking them is utterly useless. Instead, the true currency of this power sharing is ethnic identity. The strongman is literally cutting the national pie along tribal lines to carve up the state's wealth. If you want to understand the regime, you have to map the ethnic DNA of this distribution. All right, Section 4, the data X-ray. 45. It took 45 years of painstaking data collection across 15 different countries to build this unprecedented X-ray of autocratic cabinets. This isn't some quick survey. It's not a random opinion poll. This is a massive, relentless tracking of hard facts over decades. The process here is just staggering. They didn't just guess. Step 1, dig up decades of historical cabinet lists. Step 2, isolate every single individual minister's name. Step 3, cross-reference those names with local historians and experts. And Step 4, pinpoint their exact ethnic lineage. They turned dry research into a massive detective story, tracking thousands of individuals down to their absolute roots.
And they had to untangle some incredible complexities to get this right. They refused to be fooled by surface-level data. In Benin, they actually had to reclassify Afro-Brazilians into their true dual ethnic identities. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, they meticulously traced politicians with mixed parentage. They even tracked individuals who were violently forced to change their names under Mobutu's Africanization campaign. The researchers literally stripped away the lies to find the raw ethnic truth of power.
Which brings us to Section 5, Subversion and Limits. Previous studies relied heavily on subjective expert opinions. They used wildly broad ethnic categories. It was basically academic guesswork. But this hard data study completely changes the game. By relying on precise, individual ministers, it acts as an objective headcount. Counting actual seats and actual human beings completely subverts those old methods. It replaces feelings with brutal, mathematical facts.
However, we do have to be completely honest about its limits. Counting seats is totally objective, yes? It's hard math. But math doesn't always capture whispers in the dark. It might miss the quiet realities of which minister secretly holds the most influence. I mean, one minister of finance might have 10 times the actual pull of 3 ministers of sports. Data gives us the map, sure, but it might miss the subtle, hidden gravity of the ruler's inner circle.
Which brings us to our final, lingering question. By mapping the ethnic DNA of the executive cabinet, have we finally cracked the dictator's playbook? Or is this just the very first layer of a much deeper secret? This data fundamentally changes how we view power. But in a world built entirely on deliberate illusion, the search for the absolute truth is never really over. Think about that the next time you hear about a sudden cabinet reshuffle.